AGC or the A&E firm that was the prime. And really, minorities were left dealing with a private citizen and with the government having no accountability for it. And this is one of the reasons I can think back in 1985, there were 28 black-owned trucking firms in the Seattle-Tacoma area. And pretty soon, guys started putting their wives in business, and before you know it, you're down to 2 or 3. And they were all extremely qualified. But because of the fact the government allowed the private company to select whether a woman or a minority was going to participate, just shunned that responsibility, threw it to the private citizen. I think the government needs to take more of a responsibility of ensuring, instead of just putting this on AGC or putting this on majority firms. I think, and then going to ask them after you give them a contract, are you going to comply and help someone? That's why I trust direct contracting. Then that way I know we're going to participate. Any little fancy program, it hasn't worked for us yet. We've seen it, let's go from 28 black-owned trucking firms to 2.
Before we move to our next expert, I would like to take this opportunity to recognize some more elected officials who have joined us. We are joined by Metropolitan King County Council member Larry Gossett, as well as my colleague in the Washington State Legislature, who I almost didn't see, State Representative Velma Valoria from the 11th District, as well as a representative from the co-speaker of the House's office, co-speaker Frank Chopp's aide, Nori Katabai. Thank you very much for joining us today. And Mr. Cooper.
Thank you. I've been relatively quiet, obviously, because I've been listening to all of the discussion. I'd like to first start off by saying that I'm not necessarily here to debate on the BOOST program, because I think the BOOST program is an approach, and many have said it's a Band-Aid approach. I don't know if that's necessarily true or not at this stage of the game, but I can tell you what I do see. Before I-200, there was no compliance with the law. If you look at the numbers before I-200, we weren't doing what we were supposed to do. The state, the county, the city, no one was really doing what needed to be done to make it equitable for minority contractors to get a piece of the American dream, economic parity.
Okay, well, my plan is just to go through the questions more or less in the order that you saw them, but being opportunistic at times to maybe ask you to rephrase something or to bring in another
Well,
fact.
the tough question is, what is the SSP?
Right.
And that
that's
takes
unfortunately
breaking
the
down
first
into,
one.
yeah, and that takes breaking down into a lot of pieces, so that's going to be tough, but we'll try.
Okay. Well, first of all, why don't you just go ahead and say again, you know, your role here. Judy, what is your role here on Park Zoo?
I'm the general curator, and that means that I'm in charge of the animal collection and therefore responsible for the people who work with animals, the keepers, the curators, the veterinarian technicians, and so forth.
David, what I'm planning to do is just sort of go through this indeed in a somewhat... Okay, great. We're just fine then. Okay, let's go ahead and get the really awful question out of the way first. Judy, would you like to tell me in a few sentences what the letters SSP stand for? What are they?
The SSP stands for Species Survival Plan, and this is a major effort among North American zoos and sometimes international zoos as well to cooperate in maintaining small populations of selected species in captivity for long periods of time. And this means that you have to have a lot of cooperation, and the main purpose is to maximize the genetic diversity of the captive population. And with small...
Can we start again? The
Sure.
air conditioning turned off.
We can, I think, completely disable the system.
That'd be great.
Well, it's probably better to just not have it because it's always wrong. You know, it's either too cold or too hot all the
I
time.
think I've managed to disable it. We'll find out.
I thought they'd fixed it finally.
The only problem is that I don't mind on or off. It's on and then off.
Yeah.
Constantly.
Well, it's bad anyway, so it's not useful. Oh, I've got a
This is one of those
friend.
systems that needs perpetual fixing.
Okay, just start with the same question.
Okay, and actually, that was an example of where you started to answer it very quickly after I finished asking, and probably a little more of a break might have been helpful.
Yes, I do that. That's a real problem with me. Okay, I'll try.
Okay. Can you just briefly explain what SSP is, what it stands for.
SSP stands for Species Survival Plan. And the SSP is a major program of cooperation between North American zoos, sometimes international zoos as well, to maintain small captive populations for long periods of time. This is very important. It is very important to have the maximum genetic diversity in the population if the population is to be viable for long term. And that means a lot of cooperation between zoos. You can't have a few zoos breeding and maintaining animals and expect to have a viable population. So what the program does in essence is treat all of the animals of a particular species that are in captivity as one breeding population or one major population. And in that way,
We'll just use the audience. Swat.
okay, where were we?
That
In
way.
essence, what is it you were saying?
Hmm?
You were saying the program in essence what?
Well, the program is, the way the program works is that all of the animals of a particular species in captivity in zoos are treated as one population. So even though the animals are located at many different zoos, they are treated as one group for breeding purposes, for management purposes.
Excellent. I heard somebody at one point, and I think it was in a talk somewhere, and it might have been William Conway, although I'm not sure.
Probably.
Say something to the effect that, with a good SSP, you wind up essentially with one giant zoo instead of, 40 or 200 or whatever. So, is that a reasonable characterization?
Yes, one giant zoo would be a good characterization because you have to actually forget your own institution's interests, and therefore you do become one family or one big zoo.
Why were SSPs created? Why do they exist?
Well, I think because there were problems with maintaining these animals in captivity.
Start again. Include his question in your answer. SSP exists.
Okay.
because-
The SSP exists because there were some problems in maintaining small captive populations. It's no longer very possible to bring in animals from the wild, nor do zoos want to do this because we want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. And in order to have self-sustaining populations, we had to develop a lot more effective ways of maintaining this genetic diversity, which is so critical.
Okay, and if I can take it sort of one step further out from that, thinking of the link between what's happening in captivity and in the wild, I'll ask the same question basically, but with that framing, why do SSPs exist?
SSPs existed originally just for perhaps zoos' more narrow purposes, but now we're talking about the SSPs being really a very important component of maintaining the exotic species, not just in captivity but in the wild or for the future. So the goal of the SSP program now is to keep these populations viable. Sometimes this is the only place that these animals will exist until the trends of the human population and some other factors have the opportunity to perhaps slow down or reverse, until the population of humans stabilizes. This is a kind of a stalling technique so that we can still have these animals be in existence, not become extinct, and possibly reintroduce them into the wild. This isn't to say that zoos can do this just with the SSP program, but it's a major component along with the preservation of natural habitats and the cooperation of many countries and so forth.
So animals which have SSPs, these are animals which are having difficulty in the wild. They are therefore endangered.
Well, most of them are endangered, not all. And now I think the trend is to try to catch the problem before it becomes too far along. So some of the species that are being selected for SSPs are not endangered. But we're looking at species that are particularly vulnerable and are significant species. This is hard to select among the many wonderful species of animals there are. But some of the really vulnerable species are the ones that people enjoy so much, such as the gorillas or elephants. Big animals are very vulnerable because they require so much space, and the space is shrinking all the time.
Very nice. Very nice. I think you've already answered a couple of other questions. This is great. Good work.
I'd like to hear the rephrasing of the sometimes this is the only place that these species will survive. The zoos are some statement that zoos are the only place that these species will survive, and we have an obligation to, to build so that we can have them in the future. Some succinct statement that's like that.
And if you wish to use the ARC term, go ahead, but you don't have to.
The arc is misleading because that's 2 by 2, and we're talking 200 by 200 or
Yeah.
something. Where were we? We've talked about how small populations are difficult to maintain, and that's true in the wild as well as in captivity. There are many species where the populations are already small or fragmented, and they may very well not be viable. And that means that if we manage our small captive populations very effectively to maintain as much genetic diversity as possible, zoos may be the main resource for certain species, the last hope or last salvation for certain species.
Can you say that one more time? Zoos may be the last hope, the last salvation. Just a sec. Go ahead. And make sure you look at him when you talk. Okay.
Where do I start?
Zoos, just think for a minute and say zoos may be the last salvation, the last hope.
Zoos may be the last salvation, the last hope for certain species, particularly if the populations are very fragmented and small in the wild.
That was
I
brilliant.
thought that was wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes. That will be used. Perhaps in the beginning, perhaps in the end. See, Judy, remember I've talked about how you're our framing device? You are our framing device. You know, the video will probably begin and end with you. And statements like that will be wonderful for sort of giving an overall framework to the more specific interviews with the keepers, which will be about,
Get to the easy questions.
Actually, fortunately, I've got some easy questions. What I want to do is just ask a few questions you can answer just in a couple of sentences about a little bit of historical stuff and general SSP stuff. So, first of all, when did SSPs begin and who started the program?
The SSP program began in 1981, and it was created by the National Organization of Zoos and Aquariums, which is the American Association of Zoological Parks and Aquariums.
Okay, great. Can you say that once more? I mean, that was very good. And maybe have it be more like the program was begun in 1981 and was started by AAZPA, the association.
Do you want to abbreviate it?
Do the AAZPA and then say what it is what I'm
Okay.
asking for.
The program was initiated by the AAZPA, which is the American Association of Zoological Parks and Aquariums, and it was created in 1981.
Great. How many SSPs are there now, both in general and at Woodland Park Zoo, that we're participating in?
I believe the number is close to 60.
Sorry.
What?
a form of democratic socialism, guaranteeing as entitlements of citizenship, at a minimum, health care for every American citizen. And as we sit here today, 45 million Americans have no health care, and most of them are women and children.
Come on, Reverend.
And he was also pushing for a guaranteed minimum income for adults, not welfare, but workers' rights and right to work.
Come on.
He was dealing with economic injustice, and the gap between black and white income today is higher than it was when Martin King died 33 years ago. Amen. Don't bow to the idol of material affluence and indifferent to the poor. Some of us are of the mentality that I got mine, now you get yours. I'm on board, Captain. Now pull up the plank. But as Jesus said, inasmuch as you've done it to the least of my brethren,
Come on, Reverend.
you've done it unto me.
Come on.
And if we don't advocate for the poor, then who? If we don't advocate for the naked, then who? If we don't advocate for those trapped and isolated in urban inner cities, then who? If we don't demand justice, then who? If we start singing like the others, just us, then who will be left to advocate and sound the clarion call for justice in this country? Blacks in government cannot bow
That's right.
to the idols of material affluence and indifference to the poor. But as well as blacks in government, we cannot bow to the seductions of Babylon and begin to believe that the grass is always greener on the other side. What are you talking about, preacher? Black men, love who you want to.
Come on.
That's your right, your God-given right in a free society. But don't ever get so mesmerized by the seductions of Babylon that you lose your respect and reverence for that black woman. Who sacrificed so much to make you who you are and get you where you are. Let me say that again. Love who you want to. That's your God-given right. But don't ever get so caught up in the mesmerizations of the culture that you lose your respect and your reverence for the black woman who made you who you are, from the mama who birthed you and the sisters who looked out for you.
Come on, Reverend. Come on. I feel you. I feel you.
In 1905, when black leaders were fighting for anti-lynching legislation in America, for 65 straight years, a black man was lynched somewhere in the country every week. Jarena Lee, Ida B. Wells Barnett, James Weldon Johnson, and others were fighting for anti-lynching legislation in Congress, which they kept falling one vote short. They kept saying, we don't need anti-lynching legislation. You know, we don't need gun control laws. We don't need hate crime laws. We've been this way before. And Jarena Lee, they said she was only about 5'1" and thick of hip and thick through the thighs. You know, she was a shown-up sister. She was a God-fearing woman.
That's right.
Had a family full of preachers. They heard that the Klan was going to be riding through her little hometown in Tennessee. So Ida B. Wells Barnett went and organized all the younger black women in her town. They took their babies and put them in the possession of the older women. And then they went and they loosened those loose floorboards in their homes where they kept their protection. And they pulled out their big brothers, Smith and Wesson. And those God-fearing sisters put their Bibles down, gave their babies to their older women. And those who were quick enough to travel, they put those six-shooters on their hips, found out the path where the Klan was riding, blocked the path of the Klan, and told them, before you lynch any one of our black men, you got to go through us first.
Come on, Reverend.
And the Klan turned back at the sight of some angry, God-fearing black women who were willing to do anything to protect black men. And for brothers to come along now and kick sisters to the curb like a bad habit, remember who you are.
Come on, Reverend.
One of the young women in my church Cynthia Brown, wrote a compelling poem. She read it at a recent program, and I asked her for a copy of it. And it vents the frustration of African American women who are being sent some very negative messages by African American men, and nobody wants to listen to them. And I said, give me a copy of that. She wrote a poem entitled America's Least Wanted. Listen to the words of this poem. It says, imagine if you could love my blackness as I love yours. She writes it to black men. Imagine if you could love my blackness as I love yours. And imagine if that love came naturally. Imagine if loving me felt as good as your one-fisted black power rhetoric sounds. What if I was desirable and when you touched my substance, you met a strong, intelligent, independent woman instead of an asexual, domineering, opportunistic bitch? It would be a thing of beauty if I wasn't America's least wanted and you weren't America's most wanted. And together we righted our community with some criminal black-on-black love. Just imagine the possibilities if you fathomed your blackness in me and revered it. Brothers, love who you want to. That's your God-given right. But don't bow so low to the idols of seduction in Babylon that you lose your reverence and respect for the God-sent black woman who sacrificed to make you who you are and got you where you are. Help me, somebody. Don't bow, blacks in government. Don't bow to the idols of religious conservatism and celebrity religion. You know, the old saying was, not is you got religion, but is you got good religion. There isn't a sick, evil cause in the world that hasn't been promoted by somebody's evil, concocted religion. There were a lot of Bibles in Nazi Germany that gave us the Third Reich, split Europe between East and West, and gave us a bipolar world after World War II, and led to a proliferation of an arms race that broke the back of the Soviet Union and almost broke the back of the United States. There were a lot of Bibles in South Africa when the Dutch Reformed Church was the leading agent in establishing and crafting apartheid. There are a lot of Bibles in the antebellum South, and most of the people who bought the slaves, sold the slaves, raped the slaves, castrated the slaves. They were church-attending, Bible-toting Christian people. And so we can't bow to the idols of religious conservatism. Martin Luther King Jr. used to often say, any religion that pretends to be concerned about the souls of men, but is not concerned about the slums that damn them, the economic conditions that cripple them, and the social conditions that strangle them, is a dry as dust religion. And American history is the story of dry as dust religion. Robert Schuller and Billy Graham wouldn't march across the William Pettis Bridge with Martin Luther King Jr. because they didn't want to upset their Sunday morning worshipers. Dry as dust religion. And it's not just among white folks, but it was black folks. J.H. Jackson, the president of the National Baptist Convention, the single largest African-American organization in the country, naming 8.5 million people, the president for 27 years, he kicked Martin Luther King Jr. out of the National Baptist Convention, jealous of his popularity. If Martin Luther King Jr. was alive today, he would have questions for T.D. Jakes, who wants black women to come to a ball stadium, to pay him great sums of money and buy his tapes and books so that he as a man can tell you as a woman how to get loose, but will not speak out on the criminal justice system that are locking up their husbands and their boys, which is why they're depressed in the first place. And George W. Bush gave T.D. Jakes 3,500 tax-free acres of land in Dallas to build his potter's house. And in the recent consecration of his new building, T.D. Jakes would not allow a representative of the Democratic National Party to make an announcement about voter registration and turn out the vote on election day because he was bought and sold by the religious conservative right.
They get nervous.
Don't bow to the idols of religious conservatism. Everybody talking about heaven ain't going there. Question is not is you got religion, but is you got good religion. Bad religion gave us the Ku Klux Klan. Bad religion just slew Indira Gandhi and Mahatma Gandhi. Bad religion put Hans Dink, burned him at the stake because he translated the gospel into the vernacular of the people. Bad religion gave us the White Citizens Council. Bad religion burned crosses in people's homes. Bad religion gave us Nazi Germany. Bad religion gave us apartheid. Bad religion gave us Pat Robertson, Pat Buchanan, Jimmy Swaggart. Bad religion put Ronald Reagan in the White House. Bad religion is behind George W. Bush. The question is not, is you got religion, but is you got good religion? Bad religion hangs around the altar, quotes pious prayers, and walks past the poor, legislates against them, takes bread from children, gives it to bombs, gives tax cuts to the rich, upwardly redistributes wealth. Bad religion is more concerned about who's sleeping with who than who's helping who out. But good religion spills down the Jericho road. Good religion marches with the poor. Good religion includes. Good religion brings folks together. Good religion tears down walls. Good religion sides with the poor. Good religion is compassion. The question is, black or white, is you got good religion?
And some remarks. On this past Monday, Washington State honored the life and work of Dr. Martin Luther King. At the heart of Dr. King's philosophy was the concept of service. Dr. King often spoke about the vital importance of humanitarian service. He once said that life's most persistent question is, what are we doing for others? On January the 15th, Governor Locke called each and every one of us to honor Dr. King and making his birthday a day of service, making a day on, not a day off. In keeping with Dr. King's mission, Governor Locke, along with his agencies and staff, spent the day actually doing humanitarian service with Habitat Humanity, actually building a house in Tacoma for a minority family. In concluding, Dr. King said in his sermon entitled, "The Drum Major Instinct," that everyone can be great because everyone can serve. You do not have to be Plato or Aristotle to serve. You do not have to know the second theory of thermodynamics and physics to serve. You do not have to know Einstein's theory of relativity to serve. You only need a heart full of grace, a soul generated by love, and can be that servant, each and every one of us. Dr. King's words provides an urgent message to all of us to enter into a new season of service for the benefit of humankind. Also, Governor Locke did a proclamation, and years before our state, we celebrated Martin Luther King's birthday as a holiday. This year, Coretta Scott wrote to Governor Locke asking him to declare the day a day of service. As I stated before, Governor Locke actually did that, calling for all his agencies, calling for corporate America to join him, and he was successful in raising almost $50,000, putting that money back into the state so we can continue to honor Dr. Martin Luther King's Day as a day of service. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Blue. Seeing as though Sister Blue talked about service in the spirit. Every now and then I think about my own death, and I think about my own funeral. And I don't think of it in a morbid sense. But every now and then I ask myself, what is it that I would want said, and I leave the word to you this morning. If any of you were around when I have to meet my day. I don't want a long funeral. And if you get somebody to deliver the eulogy, tell them not to talk too long. And every now and then I wonder what I want them to say. Tell them not to mention that I have a Nobel Peace Prize, for that ain't important. Tell them not to mention that I have 300 or 400 other awards. That's not important. Tell them not to mention where I went to school. I'd like somebody to mention that day that Martin Luther King Jr. tried to give his life serving others. I'd like for somebody to mention on that day that Martin Luther King Jr. tried to love somebody. I want you to say on that day that I tried to be right on the war question. I want you to be able to say on that day that I did try to feed the hungry. I want you to be able to say on that day that I did try in my life to clothe those who were naked. I want you to be able to say on that day that I did try in my life to visit those who were in prison. I want you to say that I tried to love and serve humanity. Yes, Brother Mack, if you want to tell them that I was a drum major, tell them that I was a drum major for justice. I was a drum major for peace. I was a drum major for righteousness. And all of the other shallow things will not matter. See, we won't have any money to leave behind. We won't have any of the fine and luxurious things of life to leave behind, but we just want to leave a committed life behind, and that's all I want to say. If I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer one of you up with a word or a song, if we can show one of you that your traveling's wrong, then our living will not be in vain. In the spirit. Please welcome to the podium our Region 10 President to give out some awards and special recognition, Brother Walter Washington.
You know, as I listen to my brother Carl Mack do his rendition of Dr. King, it actually sends a chill down your spine. For those of you who were there in the 50s and 60s, you know what I'm talking about. I get the fun part. As regional council president, I can kind of do what I want, say what I want, and get away with it. So I get the fun part. The fun part is giving out awards and recognizing those who have supported blacks in government and have supported me and supported this organization nationwide. Each year, Region 10 gives out an award in recognition of the individual or firm or department, governmental department, that has demonstrated a service to mankind that exemplifies the lifestyle of Dr. Martin Luther King. This year's recipient is a gentleman who is the District 10 representative for King County. He also chairs the Regional Policy Committee, the Law and Justice Human Services Committee, and vice chairs the Management, Labor, and Consumer Services Committee. He's also a committee member on the Employment Committee, the Natural Resources Committee, which governs parks and open spaces for King County. One of his most formidable causes that he's been struggling with for many, many years. He was here with us last year with a proclamation that he wanted. It actually was an initiative they wanted us to sign to try to change the King County logo, which was renamed. King County was renamed to Martin Luther Jr. King County. Martin Luther King County back in 1986, and his program was to change the logo to be the likeness of Dr. King, considering that Chief Sealth is the likeness for the city of Seattle, the founder of Seattle, and that George Washington is the likeness for the state of Washington. He also wanted to have that same likeness for Dr. King, being that the county was named Martin Luther King Jr. County, to be the likeness of Dr. King. His efforts are still ongoing. The cause has not been met. This year's recipient of the Martin Luther King Commemorative Banquet Award for Humanity to the Community goes to Councilman Larry Gossett. Larry's not here, so I'll make sure he gets that when I go over to his office. There's also some special awards I like to give. Each year, Region 10 designates a portion of its proceeds in fundraising to support scholarship opportunities for young people and to organizations who support the efforts of our young people. We oftentimes lose something when we lose our young people. Our future is our young people. Our investment should be our young people. In my community, in your community, usually it's quite evident that our black youth are the most at risk. And in doing our part as blacks in government, we like to do something to put back into the community some of the things that we take away. And we try to put on these events so that we can provide some dollars to support some of those youth. This year, at our council meeting earlier this morning, we voted to take
Zebra's walking.
It's really cold. This stuff is cold. Come on, Marie. Coming.
We may have a zebra shot. I'm just letting it lock and the heat just walks through so we can go to wherever we want it and then freeze it, I think. It should work. It's David's problem. We might have some.
A rock. There's some roses. There. Yeah.
Put your head up, Zebra.
I don't know what to say. I don't know. I don't know how tight or wide to be.
Put your head up.
Bring my high-pitched whistle.
Oh, you got hands again.
Now that my hearing is gone.
Wendy, go show them your badge. Say, you look like that.
Yeah. They're over there. You can get a shot from over near there. You go a little bit.
Then they'd be backlit if the sun came out.
They're just gonna move all over.
Yeah.
that bird.
Will you stop shooting birds? Come on. Go ahead.
Sharon.
Oh, that's great if they can stay there. If you don't mind us shooting the backs of them.
Over here.
Your lens is pretty bad. she blowing on you?
The rapping means it's smooth. No, please don't push holes in the floor. No.
Would it be easier? Kai, leave it. Good. C, leave it. Kai, leave it. Go up there. Is it?
No, no, don't reach in. Strangers in the barn.
You know what might work? Is us moving back and opening this a little bit more. Open this a little bit wider and put you inside and have them reach through. That might work. Right, and then you go up to her. Get as close to her as you can.
With the Seattle Human Rights Commission. Peter.
Thanks, Lynn. Hello, I'm Peter Steinberg. I want to thank you all for being here, especially thank Lynn and the Commission on Human Rights and the Office of Civil Rights in the City of Seattle and the Executive Services Department for their assistance in this forum. This is a continuation of a forum that we held on a similar topic last year that was hosted by Councilmember Martha Cho. I want to recognize Councilmember MacGyver here in the audience, and also Julian Saucedo from Councilmember Compton's office is here, as well as my legislative assistant Tiffany Stillwell. Have I missed any other council representatives? I don't think so. But again, to thank you all for being here. I chair the Committee on Housing, Human Services, Education, and Civil Rights, which I created in part to continue the efforts to end discrimination, to fight racism and inequity in our society. We've worked on many fronts along with my colleagues on these issues. We've participated in sponsored forums on race discussions. We've had many, many discussions on the issues of affirmative action. We've worked with the Office of Civil Rights to increase efforts to fight racism and discrimination in the workplace, in housing, and there's much work to be done, as we all know. This is yet but one small part of the bigger picture, equity in contracting, which is the primary focus tonight. And I would say I'd like to also just put on the table that the BOOST program, which is a collaborative effort of several jurisdictions, the county, the port, the University of Washington, the school district, the city of Seattle, is not a remedy to end discrimination, but it is rather an effort in the post-200 environment to continue to work to address the inequities that have to do with the awarding of contracts and to find new tools to do that. So that's what that's about. We also expect to hear some important updates on what progress we've made, what setbacks we've seen since 200 was passed. I know as a former small contractor for many years the challenges of contracting, of running a business, of making it work, making it pencil, of the risk-taking, of the challenges in getting the award of a contract, the education and training that is a critical part of that, and awareness. And I was a privileged contractor, being a young white man in the field. And I know that. And I know that I know of the inequities. And I can't say that I know better than anyone else, because I don't. But I do know that we have much work to do in terms of leveling the playing field. So I want to again thank the Commission. I want to thank all of our panelists and all of the participants here tonight, and also express my appreciation for the work that has gone into these efforts since I-200 passed to try to tackle some of these issues. With that, I'd like to introduce distinguished panel MC tonight, Representative Sharon Tomiko Santos, who has a record of fighting for social and economic justice in our communities. And I know that she is committed to this work as a top priority of hers in her capacity as a legislator and as an active member of the community. So we're very pleased to have her participation in this forum tonight. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Sharon.
Thank you, Mr. Council Member. Indeed, I want to thank the members of the Human Rights Commission for inviting me to moderate this very important panel discussion. I'm very privileged to be able to do so. And I also want to remind people here in the audience, as well as our commission members and our panel guests, that we are being broadcast live on TVC, Channel 21 and 28, and we want to welcome our viewing audience in joining us tonight for this important discussion.